I'm a program manager for the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt program. And today I'm just going to kind of guide you through our program, what we offer, why we think you should take our program, and interact a little bit with you to learn more about you and guide you to the next steps. So let's go ahead and get started. Right, so our agenda for today, we're going to have some introductions, let you know the team that you'll be working with, give you an overview of the program, talk a little bit about program requirements, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end. During the session, if you have any technical questions or issues, or you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box. Jen Knutson, who's running tech for us today, she's going to field some of your questions along the way. But if she doesn't respond to you, don't worry. It means that either it's something that we're going to cover in the presentation, or it's something that we want to cover at the end during the Q&A session. All right. So I want to introduce you to our team. So while Jen Knutson and I will be your contacts while you're enrolled in the program, Kathy Zhao is our enrollment coach. And what that means is when you're considering the program, if you have questions after this webinar, or you have questions about enrolling, or you're ready to enroll, you can always reach out to Kathy and talk with her, and she can answer all the basic questions about enrollment, pricing, what's involved, what the requirements are. And later in the presentation, I'll also provide a link to Kathy's calendar, and that will allow you to set up a personal one-on-one appointment with Kathy if you really just want to talk about your particular situation and make sure the program's right for you. We're also really fortunate today. Oh, and there's Kathy's calendar link. So you can go to that Calendly link and set up an appointment with Kathy to talk with her over Zoom or by phone.
And Kathy will share her link. Kathy, if you get a chance to put it in the chat box, and then maybe towards the end as well. Great.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
I will put my calendar link and also my email address in the chat box.
So as we mentioned, there's a $100 discount for attending today's session live. So please stick on to the end, stay to the end, and Kathy and Jen will be sharing a little more information about how to claim that discount. So we're really fortunate today to be joined by the course's instructor, Sonia Singh. Sonia's going to stay on to the end for the Q&A. Sonia's highly qualified. She's taught this course many times before, and we're really fortunate to have her on board. So welcome, Sonia.
Hi, everyone.
Great. So I always like to start off with a poll because I want to learn a little bit more about you and who's attending this information session as we talk about what to expect. So the first poll I wanted to launch is, how much experience do you have with process improvement or Lean Six Sigma concepts in particular? There's no right or wrong answer. There's no real requirements to enroll in this program. I just want to kind of know who our audience is. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to complete that poll.
All right, Michelle, it looks like we got half of our participants. I'll give everybody a couple more
results coming in.
Yeah.
So from the preliminary results, it looks like the majority of you, about 62%, have some experience with process improvement. And it looks like about 30% of you are brand new to this area. That's exciting. That's great. And then about 10% of you are highly experienced. And that's to be expected. This program does attract a lot of business analysts, other kinds of analysts who use this in their daily work. All right, great. Thanks, Jen. So I want to talk a little bit about what this course covers. So this course is on Lean Six Sigma, not just Lean, not just Six Sigma. It's the combination of both. And it's really a performance improvement methodology. And it's really aimed to reduce variation in business operations, improve productivity and profitability. It's really about process improvement, change management. And as a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, which is a designation of achievement in the Lean Six Sigma area, you're going to really be able to get involved in your organization's process improvement initiatives. You're going to help guide them in defining projects, setting project objectives, collecting data, which is a key part of Lean Six Sigma, and really implement the changes that are necessary. And you'll be able to apply these concepts and tools and all the methodologies that Sonia's going to teach you in the class immediately at your institution or organization. So a lot of people ask, well, who should attend this class? Who's it designed for? So it's really designed for a wide range of people. Anyone who's a leader in an organization, various kinds of analysts in an organization, Also project, program, or operational managers, and really anyone who wants more experience in process improvement or change management techniques. There's really no wrong answer. I'll talk a little bit later on about the fact that this course does utilize a live project, that you have a project or process at your work environment. So you are going to be someone you're going to need access to actual work processes. But beyond that, there's a lot of flexibility in who can attend. In the past, we've had individuals who worked in fundraising, facilities, IT, tutoring, all aspects of the public and private sectors. There's really no wrong background. So I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of the program. There's a lot of Lean Six Sigma programs and courses out there. This is one I think that brings a lot of value. We are UC Davis. We have a lot of expertise here at the university, and we really leverage that to bring a real high quality product. The other thing is, because we're running this out of the continuing education department, we really pride ourselves on practical knowledge. Our target audience is working professionals. So our instructors and subject area experts work in the field. They're people who are keeping abreast of the latest innovations in the industry. And we really bring that to the courses. We want to offer you a curriculum that has immediate applicability, something that you can bring back to your workspace and really see a difference. Because Sonia is a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma, she also can serve as a mentor. So throughout the 13 weeks of the course, you'll be meeting with her over live Zoom sessions, and she'll serve that role for you to really guide you while she's teaching you these methodologies, tools, and techniques. Also, just want to highlight that Lean Six Sigma is not a newfangled ideology. This is something that's been tried and true. It's been around for some time, and it's really been really well received. And even people from our previous classes have already written to us and said, I use this every day at my organization. I wish I could send everyone on my team. And then lastly, our course is designed to award a green belt badge. It's a digital badge that if you meet the program requirements, you receive at the end. And that's a real benefit right now, especially with social media kind of taking over from the traditional resume or curriculum vitae. This is a way that you can share your credentials easily, graphically on social media, on things like LinkedIn, or in correspondence with potential employers. So I want to talk a little bit about what to expect, because sometimes there's a lot of jargon out there, and sometimes people get confused. Is it Lean? Is it Six Sigma? So we are going to cover project scoping, charter development. We'll use the DMAIC framework, which is the classic Six Sigma framework for problem solving. You're going to produce an A3, which is the Lean framework for problem solving. So we really integrate the two. You're going to use different fundamental tools, process mapping, standard work, mistake proofing, things that are commonplace in the industry. And Sonia will go through and introduce these tools and techniques for you. They may not always be the appropriate tool or technique for the project at hand, but you need to be aware of them, because as you go through your career, this is your toolkit to use. We're going to talk a little bit about risk assessment, change management, and closing a project. This course is not heavy on Six Sigma. And what that means is we're not going to be doing a lot of statistical analysis. We are going to be using data and metrics, but we're not going to go deep into data analysis. So I just want to make that clear. You're really going to be focusing on small incremental improvement. So this is a 13-week class. We want you to work on a live process or aspect of a project at your work. But we realize in 13 weeks, you're not going to overhaul your entire company procurement process. But what you might be able to do is introduce a new intake form or a new system that you use to track procurements or to collect information, or a new training program. The opportunities are endless, but it's going to be a module or aspect of a process or larger project, something that you can really utilize these tools over the course of the class and see some immediate results, and take these tools with you and finish the project afterwards. So there are some requirements. Because we do award a green belt badge that is approved by Credly, we do ask that students attend all the live sessions. There are 7 live sessions. They're on Wednesday mornings, and the schedule is online, and I'll share it in a few minutes as well. So as you're considering enrolling in this class, you want to make sure that you can attend all these classes. We understand life happens, things come up. If you need to miss a class, that's understandable, but we ask that you contact your instructor as soon as you're aware of the fact you're going to miss it, so that she can make sure it's recorded, share the recording with you, talk with you about what you missed, because we want to make sure that you don't fall behind. There are going to be assignments during this class. It's a non-academic class, but there will be grades used just to kind of monitor your success on the assignments. The assignments might be, submissions of something you produce in like a Word document. They may be quizzes. They may be participation in class, but there are deliverables that you are expected. And of course, a big final project, which is the key cornerstone of the class. You have to earn a C or better on all of these deliverables. Sonia will work with you. She will give you feedback, but we need to see effort. We need to see comprehension, because in order to earn the badge, we want to make sure that you really have understood what's being taught. There's also deadlines. We understand that your obligations are numerous. You have your full-time job, you have your family obligations, and this class is one more thing. So we really want to help you manage your time. So even though the class is online and there are synchronous sessions and there's a lot of work that you can do at your own time, there are going to be deadlines. We don't want you to fall behind. We want to make sure you're in sync with your classmates, because as Sonia is teaching the content, she needs to know that everyone is at the same place. We also understand that sometimes you may not be able to make a deadline. You may be offline on a trip that's, on an area where you can't get internet. We just ask, again, work with your instructor. Let your instructor know in advance what's happening with your schedule so that she understands when she can expect you to turn something in or why she hasn't heard from you. That's really key. And then, as I mentioned, the cornerstone of the class is one penultimate project. You may not complete the entire project that your work is working on, but we want you to complete the aspect that you have identified to use for this class. So for example, if the aspect of the larger process or project that you've identified is the intake form or the website, we'd like to see that completed and the tools and techniques applied through the assignments over the course of the class, and then finishing with the project at the end of the 13 weeks. As I mentioned, there are some synchronous sessions. They're over Zoom. They're going to be roughly every other Wednesday morning. So class starts on February 23rd, 2022, and it goes through May 25th. And so we'll have the dates are actually published on our website, but you're going to be meeting starting on February 23rd and then every other Wednesday. And the idea is you meet on that Wednesday morning, you hear from Sonia, you interact with your classmates, you get mentoring from her. Maybe she has some office hours immediately after class. And then over the next 2 weeks in between the live sessions, you're working on your assignments. You're working on your project, with the idea being that at the end of the 13 weeks, you have done all the parts that ultimately add up to this final project. We always like to kind of highlight the rough time commitment. It's really going to depend on what kind of project or process you're working on. It's going to depend on whether you're working with, like sometimes 2 colleagues may enroll in the class and work on a project together. That's fine. May depend on how much experience you have in Lean Six Sigma or business analysis. So it's going to be different for different people, but I would roughly plan on spending 30 to 40 hours over the 13 weeks. If you know that going in, then you're going to allow the proper amount of time and effort to the class. So this is just an outline that the instructor developed to show you kind of how she takes you through the DMAIC processes. And she starts with a kickoff, and at that first class meeting, she'll kind of talk a little bit more about what she's looking for in each student's project, help you kind of scope it out, define it, narrow it down a little bit. And then she'll take you through, the steps of the methodology, ultimately culminating in your final project. And you can see some more details there. Sonia, is there anything you want to add to this slide?
No, I think this covers the overall plan schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if we start in February, we end in May.
Okay, great. So a big part of the class, and sometimes people who are looking to apply get a little overwhelmed, but a big part of it is the fact that you will be working on a live project, a project that you're using in your workplace while you go through the class. So here's a great list of some things that Sonia's developed that you want to look at when you're trying to determine what project you should identify. So what problem are you trying to solve? So we're looking at a process, but we want a process that needs improvement. So just about all of us have some project or process in our work world that could be better. When you're looking at what problem you're trying to solve, you're going to want to make sure that it's something that you have access to. You don't want to say, well, I work in IT and I hate the procurement process. That's the process I'm going to identify. Well, you don't have any influence over that process, perhaps. That's not going to be a good example. You want to identify a project or process that's in your sphere of influence. Now, I realize that not everyone is a manager or an executive. That's fine. Even as a worker, you can identify an element or an aspect of a larger project or process that you can have an impact on. You want to make sure that the key stakeholders are open to resolving this process. You want to make sure it's a priority for your organization, because you don't want to identify a project that maybe is important to you or you think is interesting, but that the organization as a whole has not prioritized, because you want to be able to make an impact as you apply these techniques and tools. The other thing you want to make sure is that you can measure data, that you have metrics that you've identified so you know where you want to go, where are we now, and what's the future state we want to achieve. And then you want to make sure that there are mechanisms to collect data. How you collect data it can vary greatly. Sometimes it's a sophisticated system or reporting system that you're collecting data. We had one student who did surveys. We had another student that did interviews. There's no right or wrong way to collect data, except you want to make sure that you have your metrics defined, you have a consistent methodology, you have a large enough sample size, so that, like with any project, you're really getting an accurate, consistent, and broad enough picture of the situation. And as I mentioned earlier, again, sphere of influence. You really want to set yourself up for success and make sure that you're identifying a process or project that is within your purview, something that you can really apply these tools, have buy-in from key stakeholders, and make some impact. And then, of course, do you have support? So this is something where in advance of the class start date, you might want to start feeling out your coworkers, supervisors, managers, and make sure that this is something that they consider a priority or at least a possibility. And that as you work on it, you're not going to immediately run into practical or political hurdles. Sonia, anything else that you'd recommend people think about as they help identify and narrow down their project to use for the class?
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to mention was around data. So we will definitely teach you how to identify data, how to create your data collection plan and all of that. However, the key thing about data is we want you to identify something that will help you measure your success. That's the key thing. So whatever you are measuring, before, you want to be able to measure the same thing after, right? You want to be able to compare apples to apples and make sure we know that, hey, we made this change and there was an improvement. So really that's the key message behind the data collection. So don't worry so much about, hey, do I have enough? And, really just, we want you to identify something that will measure the success of the changes that you've made.
Then Sonia provided these excellent examples of what the storyboards might look like for a completed project. And I know this seems like a lot of information, but it shows you how much progress you'll make over the course of the class and the kind of information that you're going to cover, collect, and document. Sonia, anything else you want to highlight in this particular slide?
Sure. So what you see right here, these are two different project storyboards. So these are two different ones. So you'll see one here on the left and one on the right. And these are just two examples of, we call these A3s, and this is just a storyboard. And so this is the framework that we will be using for all of your projects.
So as you think about how you want to identify or what project to identify to utilize during the class, while the project is important, I don't want it to scare people away. I want to highlight the fact that Sonia will be teaching you tools, techniques, processes to use. And the project, while important, is a bit of a straw man. So there's really a lot of flexibility in the type of project or process you identify. And Sonia will help you narrow that down. And you may not finish, you may have the project documentation as part of the class, but the project itself at your organization may not be completely resolved by the end of the class. We're more interested if you have applied the skills and tools and techniques that we're teaching during the class to the project. We want to see you demonstrate that to achieve the learning objectives of the class. Some students sometimes get so wrapped up, how am I ever going to complete the entire scope within 13 weeks? That's something that is a little bit fluid. We really want to see you demonstrate capacity and comprehension more than necessarily having the perfect project. In one of our classes, we had a student that ran into intense political pushback, and that was part of his experience. That was part of how he learned how, Lean Six Sigma helps and where you have to pivot and change gears. And that's something that Sonia's mentoring will help you with. But remember, not all questions might be answered in regard to your project during those 13 weeks. It's really about the experience. So now that we've talked a little bit about the project element of the course, I'm curious if some of you are already thinking of potential projects or processes that you have in mind. You're thinking, oh, wow, I'd really like to work on like how I onboard my staff. I'd really like to work on how we acquire materials or whatever the case may be. So we'll give you a few minutes to respond to that.
Okay, Michelle, I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds. Thank you, everybody, for participating. Looks like we got at least a half of our participants answering.
And again, no right or wrong answers. This is just to give us a sense of what people are thinking. All right. So it looks like the majority of you, almost half, have several ideas for projects that would be appropriate. That's great. It looks like about a quarter of you have at least one project in mind. No problem there. About a quarter of you don't have a project in mind, but you want to look more into it. You want to think about it, do some research. That's understandable. And about 10% of you don't have a project in mind, and that's okay. Once people enroll, Sonia and I will be reaching out to you before class starts to kind of make sure you have the information you need to help move this process forward. And then when class starts, Sonia will continue to work with you to help you kind of make final identification and hone down and work through to define the scope of the aspect of the project or the project itself that you're working on. All right, great. So we do have an enrollment deadline of January 31st. And the reason we've done that, even though class does not start till February 23rd, is because of that project element. I really want to make sure that people have time to enroll and then time to talk with us about their project, any questions they have about the class. That's a time to kind of make sure that you're going to be able to attend all the live sessions and really make sure that you're have the capacity within your workday to keep up with the class, that you have the support of your supervisor or your coworkers, whatever may be the case. So that's up on our website. You can enroll directly online, or you can call in to enroll, which I'll be talking about in a few minutes. But if you do decide that you have everything you need, you're going to pay by credit card, you literally go to our website, hit enroll now, walks you through, and you can sign up. And you have until January 31st to do that. All right, so we've talked quite a bit about the program. I'm curious how many of you feel ready to enroll? Or if not, what's holding you back? Is it that you're not sure you can identify a project that's appropriate? Is it that you need time to look into the tuition funding? Is it that you're concerned that right now may not be a good time for you to commit 30 to 40 hours to a course, and you might want to think about a future cohort? So we'll give you a few minutes to complete this poll.
And Michelle, there's a question in the chat that might be helpful for me to answer. So there's a great question. Yeah, there's a great question about considering it's Wednesdays 9 to 12 p.m. Can we have alternate times? A few places will allow half-day skip for 13 weeks. Great question. So a couple clarification points. One is that it's not for, you will be meeting every other week live. So it's seven sessions that are live. And then in between, you'll be doing self-study work. So it's 7 sessions that are live. And within that, from 9:30 to about 10:30, 11 o'clock will be mandatory. And then after that is really open. So about 11 to 12 p.m. Pacific time, that is open for anyone who wants to review their projects, that wants mentorship. So really what is required of you for as far as live attendance is about an hour and a half of time over 7 sessions. So I hope that helps alleviate a little bit of pressure, blocking out so much time on your calendar.
Thanks, Sonia. That helps a lot. Yeah, we've really tried to be sensitive because our audience is working professionals. We've tried to be sensitive to the fact that you're going to have meetings, you're going to have obligations, but hopefully with enough advance notice, you can work this class into your schedule. So just looking at the results of our latest poll, it looks like about a third of you you're in. You have the information you need, you're really interested, and you really would like to sign up. That's great. Another third of you are maybes. You're a little concerned about the time, and then that's understandable as well. About 20% of you think it's interesting, but you've got to work out the financial obligation. And then about 20% of you, you need more information and you're going to reach out. And that's great. I highly encourage you to reach out to Kathy. She's a wealth of information, and she can really, feel free to set up an appointment with her or talk with her by phone or email with her, and she can answer a lot of your questions. All right, great. Thank you all for doing that poll. So we had the benefit recently of interviewing one of our recent graduates of the program. Her name is Ari. She works at UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine. And Ari's a really good example of someone who's completed our program because she's not an analyst herself. She's actually a fundraising specialist. But she found the content of the course really applicable. And she actually had a really successful project and was really excited about what she was able to achieve. So I'm just going to spend 3 or 4 minutes playing my interview with Ari because I think it'll help give you a different perspective on what to expect from the class.
I feel like the first and foremost thing that you can do to set yourself up for success in the class is to be very thoughtful about your process improvement project. I think back to the initial conversations that I had with Sonia, and I bounced around a couple of ideas that I had, but it was really helpful for me to sit down with her and hone in on what are the metrics that we
So sorry.
can gather and look at to assess the current state and to show improvement. So I actually think that those initial conversations, at least for me, were very transformative in being able to get buy-in from my stakeholders too, just to be able to go over like our current state and some goals that we were looking to achieve for the project. At least, so for me, I think it's already been touched upon, but the class builds on itself. So completing the assignments, like every single assignment that we worked on in the class was towards that bigger final project, which was really great because it's not something that I've experienced in other classes before, where you're not doing filler assignments just to assess your knowledge. Like you're really working on documents that are going to be used towards your final project. So I kept revisiting all of my earlier assignments that I completed, just because I felt like after the deadlines were over and the assignments had been graded, when I was thinking about my final project, there were things that came up in my head as aha moments that I wanted to improve upon in my assignments.
You've talked a little bit about this, Ari, but just when you look back, what would you say was the most beneficial or rewarding part of the course?
I mean, like right off the top of my head, the biggest reward was being able to start and complete a project that would deliver cost and time and resource savings benefits to my organization. Beyond the obvious deliverables of that project, I gained a new way of thinking about things. Instead of just fixating on what the problem is or what the defect is, going through the like Lean Six methodology and figuring out like how do you identify possible solutions and document those.
Mhm. So now that you've gone through the program and you had about 20 people in your class, you got to see how they went through the program. What kind of advice or guidance would you have for prospective students considering the program?
Yeah, definitely understand the time commitment required for this class. I think both of you have touched upon this very well, in that it's not a passive learning experience. There are lectures, but the lectures help prime you for completing the assignments. And there are quizzes too. So understand that there's a time commitment and that you'll need to complete a actual project towards fulfilling the course requirements.
All right, so hopefully that was helpful. That concludes the formal part of our presentation. I do see some questions in the Q&A that I wanted to take a minute to answer, and then I also wanted to invite new questions. One person asked, how frequently is this class offered? So far, we've offered this class about once a year, but if there's enough interest, we would love to offer it more often. If you cannot make the February cohort, I would definitely keep your eyes open because we are hoping to offer it again in the future. Like I said, we've had great success with our past offerings. Someone asked, what stage of my career is best to take this class? You know, I resist giving a definitive answer, but I would say this. At UC Davis, when we determine applicants for this program, we do look for people who have a few years experience. We don't require that they be in management or even supervision, but we do look for people who have been at the job for a couple of years, because that gives you time to really become intimate with the processes at your organization or the project, so that you can really not only identify an appropriate candidate to work on, but also have a network of key stakeholders and resources so that you know how to best try to resolve the problem or identify the weaknesses and such. So that's the only thing I would say, but I wouldn't prohibit someone who was new to an organization, especially if their organization supported them attending. I certainly wouldn't stop them from attending. Does this course help more to academic or non-academic positions like private industry? Oh, Jen's responding to that one. Yeah, I don't think, although we always have a good number of people attending from the university world, probably because they're familiar with our programs, absolutely, this goes beyond that particular industry. In fact, Sonia, you can speak to this a little bit. Sonia came from the healthcare industry, where this is highly regarded. Sonia, do you want to talk a little bit about the best industries for Lean Six Sigma?
Yes, the best industries are any industry. This framework and these tools, this method applies to any business process, anywhere where there is a service being provided. There's it's a transactional process. You're even products. It really doesn't matter. It's applicable across any industry. As long as there's a problem where there is no known solution and you're really trying to dig into and analyze what the root causes are, this is going to teach you how to analyze a problem, how to identify the appropriate solutions, how to test your solution. So it's really going to take you through how to solve any business problem.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It looks like we are answering a lot of the questions in the chat, but I just want to highlight some of the more common ones. The program does cost $2,495. We do have some discounts that we offer. Of course, you'll get $100 off just for attending today's session, and that code will come to you in an email, so keep an eye out for that. UC Davis does not allow us to stack or combine discounts. So if that's the best discount you have access to, that's great. But for example, if you're a UC Davis staff member, you might be entitled to a larger discount. So you would use that one. We also offer 10% off of a group for groups. So if there's 3 or more individuals from the same organization and you enroll together, so in this case, you would want to call or contact Kathy about calling in to enroll, because you want to make sure you'll get 10% off all of the participants' tuition. So I just, had a call today from someone from one organization who wants to send 4 or 5 people to this class, which is fantastic. And I told her, you're going to want to call in to enroll or contact Kathy to enroll, because you want to make sure you get the 10% discount off each and every one of your students. There's also a Cal Aggie alumni discount. So anyone who's a member of the Cal Aggie Alumni Association, there's also a discount there. Again, just a reminder that discounts cannot be combined. So you want to identify the best discount for you. We had some questions about the live sessions. Just a reminder, those dates are on our website, and you're going to want to make sure that you can attend all. You're allowed to miss just one class, but really the goal is to try to attend as many as possible. And you're again encouraged to coordinate with your instructor if you have any issues with that. And then just what's next? Yeah, so look for the email. We're going to include the discount code in the email, some additional information like the link to our, the exact spot on our website, but also the link to the recording. So if you want to watch this again, if you had to leave, start late or got distracted, or you want to share it with a colleague or friend, you can share the recording. That'll be up in about a week's time. But just a reminder that only people who attended live are eligible for the $100 information session discount.
And Michelle, I'm not sure, I apologize if you already answered it because I was typing, but a couple people asked about if they can't enroll in the upcoming one in winter, are we planning on offering any other ones after that?
I mean, our goal is definitely to offer another one either in the following fall or the following year, especially if there's enough interest. It really depends on interest. So far we've had a lot of interest in this particular cohort, which is exciting. So I would love to offer, we've offered it twice before, I'd love to offer it again in the future. But unlike some of our other programs, it hasn't been specifically planned for the future. So if you are able to make this cohort work, I highly encourage it. If not, you're welcome to get on our mailing list and we'll keep you abreast of future offerings. Oh, this is a question that we do often get. I'm not currently working. If I enroll, what would I do about the final project? So Sonia, maybe you can address that a little bit. Is it feasible, Sonia, for someone to use, if they're heavily involved, say in a board of directors or a volunteer organization, or perhaps have a personal project like a construction project going on? Is that something that would be appropriate for the class project?
Yeah, so if you don't have a project because you're not currently working, there's nothing organizationally that you can identify, I'll work with you to identify something. So you definitely need a project, but we will work with you to identify an alternative option so that you have something, whether it's in your personal life or there's some other kind of way that we can identify a project for you. So we will work with you to do that.
So we're getting a few questions about the difference between project management and Lean Six Sigma. So I'm going to have Sonia chime in as well, but the way I understand it is that Lean Six Sigma is really about process improvement, continuous improvement. Project management is about managing a project with a defined schedule, a defined budget, and defined requirements. So they're pretty different. They certainly work together, and you certainly could be really, you'd be an asset to your organization to be skilled as a project manager and in Lean Six Sigma methodology, but they are quite different. Sonia, what would you add to that?
Yes, that's right. So both actually are very complementary. The skill sets are very complementary to one another, but they are different. And the biggest difference, I would say, is that with project management, you're rolling out a solution, you're rolling out some type of product, or you're rolling something out that's already been identified. And your job is to oversee and manage that schedule, manage those resources using a certain framework. With this framework, the Lean Six Sigma, DMAIC, and the Lean framework that you'll be learning is really going to teach you, even before that, before you even identify a solution, how do you identify and define a problem? Right. So how do you define a problem? How do you analyze a problem? How do you break it down? How do you get the buy-in from the organization? How do you manage change within a project like this, which is kind of the so before you even roll out anything, you want to be able to solve that problem. Oftentimes you'll have people that have both skill sets, and which is fantastic, but they are slightly different.
Thank you. So someone has asked about the possibility of alternate schedules. You know, obviously we do a lot of surveying of our students, prospective students and alumni about what schedules for live sessions work best. There's never one single answer that satisfies everyone. We've experimented with evening classes, weekend classes. And for this particular program, the weekday mornings seem to have the best response. But please share your opinions and preferences with us, because if we have enough interest, maybe a future cohort we would do on weekends. We've had other programs that we've done like that, where, you know, one time it's offered during the workday, one time it's offered on the weekend. You know, obviously we're going to gain and lose students when we change approaches, but we're open to that. We really want to try to meet the needs of the majority. Someone also asked about other belts, yellow, black belts in Lean Six Sigma. Currently, we are just offering the green belt, but you know, if the interest is there, we probably entertain a black belt before a yellow. There's a lot of opportunities to gain the yellow out there, since it doesn't involve a project generally. You know, doesn't maybe necessarily require the expertise that we're able to harness, but right now it's just, we're offering the green belt. All right, any last questions before we sign off? Okay.
Did you want to
All
run?
right, yeah.
Did you want to run the last poll?
Yes, let's run one more poll. Thanks, everybody. Just reading all the questions. So yeah, we just want to finish up with one last poll about, did you find this information session helpful? We're constantly improving our processes and trying to make our marketing materials as useful to prospective students as possible. So each time we do these information sessions, we want to make sure we change things a little bit and give you the information you need in the manner you need. We try to change up the times we offer it. We try to make the recordings available. So please let us know, and let us know too, you know, through the emails or feedback, you know, if there's information you'd like to see on our website or something you feel is really difficult to find. Really, our goal is to make the information as attainable as possible. Great. All right. Well, that concludes our presentation. As I said, look for the email, the follow-up email with the discount coupon, additional information, and the link to the recording and our website. In the meantime, please, I encourage everyone to reach out to Kathy, set up an appointment, email her any questions, and anything she can't answer, she'll share with Sonia or myself. And I really look forward to seeing you in our class in February. Thank you all so much for attending.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.